Florida Governor Ron DeSantis is now officially a 2024 presidential candidate. He is discussing his bid during a live appearance on Twitter Spaces with Elon Musk. The governor filed paperwork with the Federal Election Commission earlier today, and he's expected to make trips to presidential primary states sometime after Memorial Day. Recent CBS News polling of the 2024 Republican field shows DeSantis in second place behind former President Trump. For more on this, CBS News' political director, Finn Gomez, joins us now. So, Finn, on days like this, there's usually a laudatory video of the candidate. Let's take a look at one released today on Governor DeSantis' behalf.
They call it faith because in the face of darkness, you can see that brighter future. A faith that our best days lay ahead of us. But is it worth the fight? Do I have the courage? Is it worth the sacrifice? America has been worth it every single time.
Ron DeSantis in silhouette, not face to camera, not saying anything on his own behalf, not letting people hear what he has to say or why, but just Ron DeSantis in silhouette with an American flag. What is that telling us?
It's telling us that after a year of this national flirtation, if you will, building and assembling a team and this political machine, that Ronald DeSantis has entered the game. And I think that he still is major. I think even though he slipped in the polls of late, and in the last couple of months, it's still the most formidable Republican rival to take on former President Donald Trump, who has maintained and is at the top of that of this early field right now.
We'll get to the tough couple of months for Governor DeSantis, at least in poll relationship to Trump in a minute. But let's talk about the Twitter Spaces and Elon Musk thing. Is that trolling Trump a little bit, going to a place that he used to dominate? Is that part of it? And is there something about the Elon Musk relationship that DeSantis is trying to convey?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, you recall those days covering the White House, you and I covering the White House, where when the words he's tweeting could change the dynamic and the coverage of
an
the
entire
day.
news day.
The total news day.
It's not a news week.
It was these Trump tweets, whether it be policy insults or some sort of, everything in between. That was Donald Trump's, Twitter that we were all following. Obviously, post January 6, 2021, when he was kicked off that site. Previous management, of course, but since then it is. I think it is an indirect way to tweak the early frontrunner, to tweak Donald Trump, and as Donald Trump's team and Donald Trump himself has been just on this constant barrage over the last couple of months at the Florida governor. So
is there something about that is trying to say that Elon Musk might be for DeSantis? Yes. I mean, frankly, Elon Musk he's a billionaire. I asked a rival camp what they thought about this, and they thought that is part of this. Part of the equation is that if
he's
not
trying
definite,
to fish
at least
for it.
by implication.
By implication,
right.
He does have a following. He has 140 million Twitter followers, but he also has this following, a large swath of the Republican electorate who see him as this sort of folk hero, this digital folk hero, if you will. And I think that anti-wokeism perspective that they both share. And yes, I think it does show an indirect, implicit endorsement, if you will, by some of this nascent candidacy of Ron DeSantis.
So the last 2 months, if you listen to the Trump super PAC and those who speak on behalf of it, have been disastrous for DeSantis. Yeah. He was once within high double digits, like 12, 14, 17 points of Trump. Now it's 25, 30 in national polls, which, of course, national polls, take them with a grain of salt. Sure. They don't matter in Iowa. They don't matter in New Hampshire. They don't matter in South Carolina. But they do matter in the larger conversation. What's happened to DeSantis the last couple of months?
Well, but if you go back even a little further, like if you remember last year post midterms when he won Florida by almost 20 points over Charlie Crist, he was the heir apparent. When he was beating Trump in some of these early states in those in the polls that came out then. But since then he's been focused on his legislative agenda that ended earlier this month in Tallahassee, which was this conservative blueprint, of course, that we talked about ad nauseum. But frankly, it's also the fact that he exposed this right flank to Donald Trump. I was with Donald Trump when he went to Davenport when he switched switched it on these attacks on Ron DeSantis, and they weren't largely unanswered. And so after months of that, it's going to take a toll.
Months of that, and also the place that former President Trump has found himself in the news cycle with the Manhattan DA's indictment, which he potentially, in a political, metaphorical way, monetized into sympathy campaign and rallying around him as the continued standard bearer for the Republican Party. And yet, DeSantis, I do believe, talking to those around him, believes not only does he have an image in Florida as someone who has turned a competitive state into a red state, if you will, but this legislative agenda that you talked about, they believe is ready-made for a conversation with Republican and primary caucus voters that's more contemporary than whatever Trump accomplished in the White House.
You know, absolutely. If you look at the list of, you know, the issues, these red meat issues, they were directed at they were directed not just at the Florida Republican base voter, but they had a national imprint, and there was called the blueprint, you know, for a reason. And you know, education, immigration, you know, open carry policies, like across the board, he's been trying to utilize that as a blueprint, as momentum for a national race. And the central theme, his central message has not changed, though, Major. He wants to be the Trump without the baggage. He wants to be the representation.
Trump without the drama.
Without the drama, without the baggage, without the fatigue, if you will. And he was trying to get that consensus of the never Trumpers and some pro-Trump MAGA supporters. And he had, at least in the early part of this cycle, he had been garnering that support. That's changed.
And the Trump super PAC ready for today's announcement from DeSantis, unofficial or official or soft or preliminary as it is, with its own advertisement. Let's take a look at that.
In Washington, one was a leader and one let us down. Even DeSantis admitted there are big differences between him and Trump.
Obviously there is, because I've been outvoted contrary to him in the Congress.
It is obvious, Ron. President Trump is the only one ready on day one to deliver for us again.
Trump world has an answer about DeSantis every hour of every day. It seems fair to say, Finn, not obsessed, but highly focused on DeSantis and trying to blow him out of this race. It is, in its own way, an indirect compliment. Absolutely.
They still see him as their main political threat, you know, not only because of the fundraising, the political operation, name ID, you know, it's so far at this point he's been the only one to really rival Trump, you know, and to kind of get into his arena, if you will. But if you still see the national polling, again, like as we mentioned, it doesn't matter in Iowa, but it's still a 30-point difference. You know, that does matter. It's still early. And
in this conversation, while we've been talking, Finn, DeSantis has just released a new ad making it officially official. Let's take a look.
We showed that we can and must revitalize America. We need the courage to lead and the strength to win. I'm Ron DeSantis, and I'm running for president to lead our great American comeback.
There it is. Looking into the camera, speaking in his own terms. Different from what we saw just a few moments ago, but that's DeSantis saying, here I am, take a look, let's go.
He's saying, I am a presidential candidate.
Right.
Finally saying those words. And per some sources close to the governor, they say that he's now going to punch back versus Trump and some of his other rivals.
Let's talk about money. In the DeSantis circles, they put the number at roughly $200 million. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, money doesn't win you the presidency. Just ask Jeb Bush or Michael Bloomberg or lots of others. Scott Walker.
Right.
But money isn't irrelevant. It matters. And the DeSantis folks have been pretty aggressive about saying they're going to plow this money through the super PAC into a ground game operation, Iowa, New Hampshire, South Carolina. That can be great. Having ground operations, knocking on doors, making phone calls, all of that works. But the candidate at a retail level has to sell what the ground team is offering. Can DeSantis do it?
So far, he has struggled mightily with that component. As you know, Major, recently in his recent trip to New Hampshire, the Granite State, he had some missteps, some flaps that were widely mocked on social media. It is something that he has to work on. Again, like a source close to DeSantis told me that their secret weapon is his wife, Casey, who is more sociable and can connect with those voters. And they also see that their words, this wholesome appearance of this couple, in especially in states like Iowa, where the evangelical vote is so strong, that he can make inroads. He's already met with some of the most influential evangelical leaders there. So
But in the end, as impressive as Casey DeSantis is, and she quite clearly is, her name's not on the ballot and won't be. Vin Gomez, thank you so much.
Thanks, Major.